We're living in a time where the basketball conversation has shifted in a way we haven't seen in decades. There's a 22-year-old kid running around the NBA right now who's forcing us to ask questions we thought were already answered. Questions about peak performance, questions about two-way dominance, questions about whether we've ever actually seen anything like this before. The name is Victor Wembanyama. And if you're paying attention, you understand that what he's doing at this age is reshaping how we think about basketball excellence. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because to truly understand what Wemby's doing at 22, we need to put him in conversation with the ones we've always considered untouchable, the blueprints, the standards. We're talking about Michael Jordan and LeBron James, two players who define what elite basketball looks like. Two players whose early careers set the bar so high that it seemed impossible to ever reach it again. But Wemby's reached it, and depending on how you measure it, he might have already passed it. Let's start with Michael Jordan, because the conversation around his age 22 season is complicated, and honestly, that's important context. Jordan's 1985-86 campaign was derailed. A broken foot limited his availability, and anyone trying to build a comprehensive comparison has to account for that. When he did take the court, sure, he showed flashes, but it was the playoffs where his true ceiling revealed itself. That Boston series? 39 points in one game, 63 points in another. These weren't regular season numbers. These were playoff explosions that made people understand that Jordan's scoring potential was something different, something almost frightening. The thing about Jordan's scoring ability was the way it transcended efficiency conversations. Yeah, his field goal percentage wasn't always perfect, but when the moment demanded it, when the stakes were highest, he just had a different gear, a different mentality. He could turn on that aggression, and suddenly the entire game bent around stopping him. And spoiler alert, nobody could actually stop him. What made Jordan special at that age, even injured, even limited, was his mentality. He had this way of taking over games that was almost psychological. Defenders knew what was coming and couldn't stop it anyway. That's a different kind of dominance. That's not just about skill. That's about will. That's about a competitive fire that burns so hot that it changes the entire dynamic of a game. But here's what's crucial to understand about comparing Jordan to Wemby at 22. Jordan's dominance was singular. He was the best scorer. That was his claim. That was what made him legendary. Everything else, the defense, the competitiveness, the leadership flowed from that singular excellence at putting the ball in the basket. His defense was elite, no question, but it was an elite secondary skill. His primary identity was offense. He was the guy you built your team around to score points, and he did that better than anyone we've ever seen. LeBron James at 22 was doing something different. He was doing everything. When LeBron hit that age, he was carrying a Cleveland Cavaliers team that had no business being competitive. Yet there he was, orchestrating offense, defending multiple positions, crashing the boards, facilitating his teammates. He was scoring in the mid-20s, but more importantly, he was a floor general. He was the point guard, the power forward, the secondary rebounder, the secondary passer. He was whatever his team needed him to be on any given possession. The 2006-07 version of LeBron was special because he made everyone around him better. That's not a cliche when you're talking about a team that otherwise had no business winning 50 games. LeBron's gravitational pull, both as a scorer and as a passer, forced defenses to make impossible choices. How do you defend a guy who could score on you, pass you into submission, and physically overpower you all in the same quarter? LeBron's path to the finals that year was built on his ability to impact the game in multiple ways simultaneously. He wasn't just a scorer, he was an engine, a machine that ran on all cylinders. His versatility wasn't a secondary skill, it was foundational to everything he did. Every possession had LeBron involved, whether he was the initiator, the finisher, or the facilitator. What separated LeBron from other young talents was his understanding of floor spacing, of how to create for others while still maintaining his own scoring punch. He could control a game without needing the ball constantly. His presence changed how defenses operated. Teams had to account for his ability to defend different positions, to switch on to guards, to handle point guard duties. He was a chess piece that could go on any square. The finals run that season showcased all of this. LeBron against the Spurs, against the Pistons before that. He wasn't the flashiest player on the court, but he was the most impactful. That's a different kind of excellence than Jordan's pure scoring dominance. And then there's Wembanyama. This is where the conversation gets genuinely difficult because we're not dealing with a straightforward comparison. We're dealing with something that legitimately hasn't existed before. Wemby at 22 is elite on the offensive end. That's a non-negotiable fact. He's efficient, he's skilled, he can score from anywhere on the floor, he can handle the ball in transition, he can run pick and roll. He's not just scoring, he's scoring intelligently, with purpose and precision. And this is crucial. His offensive game isn't the most remarkable thing about him. It's what he does on the other end that's truly historic. Think about defensive versatility and rim protection combined at an elite level. Think about a player who can genuinely shut down an entire side of the court, who can anchor a paint defense in a way that makes your team fundamentally better on that end. Think about a player who doesn't just play defense, he changes the entire strategic approach of opposing teams. That's Wembanyama. The way his defense operates is almost unfair. He's got the size of a traditional center, but the footwork and lateral quickness of a guard. He could chase you out the three-point line and then sprint back to protect the rim. He's got length that makes everything harder for opponents. Shots that should fall don't. Drives that should work get altered. The paint becomes a hostile environment when he's anchoring it. But it goes deeper than that. Wemby's defensive impact is creating a ripple effect across the entire team. His presence allows teammates to be more aggressive on the perimeter because they know help is coming. His length alters passing lanes that normally would be open. His speed and agility make it nearly impossible to hunt him as a mismatch. He's playing defense on a different dimension than most 22-year-olds ever could. And here's what makes it different from anything Jordan or LeBron did at 22. There's no precedent for this combination. You don't have Jordan being a perimeter defender at an elite level while also scoring like a maniac. You don't have LeBron being a legitimate rim protector and paint anchor while still running your offense. Those skill sets didn't coexist at that level in their primes, let alone at 22 years old. But let's be real about something. Context matters. It always does. Jordan's era was a different beast. Teams were more physical. The three-point line was a completely different consideration. The defensive schemes were more rigid. When Jordan turned it on, the entire context of playoff basketball shifted around him. There was no backup plan for teams, no three-point barrage that could overcome a deficit. It was about half-court offense and half-court defense, and Jordan mastered both. The game he played required a different kind of dominance. The interior game was more prominent. Post-ups were a legitimate offensive weapon. Iso ball was actually the primary engine of offense. Within that context, Jordan's dominance was almost incomprehensible. He did things in that era that literally couldn't be replicated in today's game because the game itself has evolved. LeBron's 2006-07 run happened in a specific era where teams were built different. The spacing wasn't what it is now. The pace and space era was just beginning. LeBron's ability to operate in that transitional period, to dominate in a more physical league while still being incredibly effective, was remarkable. And he did it while carrying a team on his back in ways that are genuinely hard to overstate. The three-point revolution hadn't fully taken hold yet. Teams were still figuring out how to space the floor optimally. LeBron's dominance in that context was about understanding where the game was heading while still dominating in the game that existed. Wemby's playing in an era of maximized spacing, elite three-point shooting, and pace and space basketball. The game has evolved significantly. But here's the thing, it's actually harder to dominate defensively in this era. Offenses are more sophisticated. The ability to hide on defense is minimal, and yet Wemby's still doing it at a level that's genuinely historic for his age. He's defending in a modern system while also protecting the rim in ways that previous generations simply didn't have to. Well, we don't have a unified measurement system. We're comparing apples to something completely different. Jordan was primarily measured by his scoring dominance and competitive fire. Did he make his teammates better? Sure. Was he a good defender? Absolutely. But those were supporting actors to his main role. scoring the basketball at historic efficiency and volume. LeBron was measured by his complete impact on winning. His scoring was elite, but his passing, his rebounding, his defense, all of it mattered equally. The question with LeBron was always, how many wins is this guy worth? The answer was, a lot. A remarkable amount, actually, for a 22-year-old. Wembanyama's forcing us to measure something new. Two-way dominance at an elite level simultaneously. It's not just about how many points he scores or how many assists he has. It's about the fact that opponents literally cannot attack in certain ways when he's on the floor. It's about the way his presence reorganizes an entire team's defensive philosophy. So who was better at 22? That's the question everyone wants answered. And honestly, it depends on what you value. If you want the highest individual ceiling for pure scoring dominance, the answer historically has been Jordan. His competitive fire, his mentality, his ability to turn it into overdrive when everything was on the line, that's something specific to his genius. Nobody in the history of basketball has had a scoring will quite like Michael Jordan. If you want the most complete player who could impact winning in multiple ways, LeBron makes a strong case. His versatility, his ability to facilitate, his physical dominance, his intelligence on the court, those things translated immediately to winning basketball. LeBron's 2006-07 season proved that you could carry a mediocre roster to the finals if you had enough impact across enough dimensions. But if you want the player who's done something we've never actually seen before, if you want the player who's constructed a skill set so unique that comparisons break down, that's Wembanyama. He's not better at any one thing than Jordan was at scoring or LeBron was at playmaking, but he's built differently. He's operating on different dimensions. The conversation shouldn't be about who was better in some absolute sense. It should be about what each player represented at that age. Jordan represented offensive supremacy. LeBron represented complete offensive versatility. Wembanyama represents something we don't have a language for yet. A two-way player of such elite standing that he's fundamentally changing how we think about basketball construction. And that's not a small thing. That's actually the biggest thing. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it and let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this one.